What's up, guys? Excited for today's call. I got Terrence Jennings. Probably everyone knows Terrence Jennings, but if you don't, he's 2012 Olympic bronze medalist. All the accolades. I don't even know everything you've won. If it's a tournament, you've probably been there, I'm sure, and medaled. But I'm excited to have you on here today, man. It's been a while. I haven't seen you in a minute.
Yeah, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good, man. Good. We're just
I'm
down
good.
here, one state below you now. Now that you moved, one state below you, running locations, trying to grow the school, impact the community, make money, do all the stuff.
I know. We're close now. We gotta make that work. I miss South Carolina. I went down there once to work with your guys. It was a pretty cool experience. You have a great program out there. I think you have the values in the program that kind of hold Taekwondo together. Your room was full of excitement. The guys had energy. Everyone was motivating each other. It was a good time. So I enjoy it when it's like that. It makes my job a lot easier when I can go and share knowledge in that atmosphere. But I'm chilling, man. Just still doing my thing. Actually, just I know we were talking about a little bit later, but open a location here in North Carolina. A peak performance naturally for me, it made sense to go in that direction, simply just because that's an organization that I've been a part of, but also more than that, organization that I truly believe in. And I think it has the athlete's best interests at heart when it comes to sport and development and going from one step to another. So I'm here trying to navigate that whole thing, different ball game, as I'm sure we'll get into, but definitely exciting time.
Yeah, for sure, man. I know it's interesting watching being a business owner now myself. We've been open right at 13 years and watching the peak program, from Juan started it. My understanding, if I remember correctly, it was like a team. It was his program, his team that he started. And then, I mean, to watch what it is now and not only the level that it's coaching at, right? Like the team that it's built across the world, not even like the country, like across the world, but also just the longevity of being able to do it that long. Like that's really impressive. How did you get linked up with Juan? I mean, I'm sure you've known Juan and the Peak team for a very long time since you were a kid. But what made you decide to go that route versus I know originally you were up in Virginia.
Yeah, that was a tough decision at the time, to be honest with you. I mean, I had been in Virginia my whole life with Coach Remark. I mean, he taught me pretty much everything I knew, from how to fight, how to be tough, everything. Without him, there was no start. But I got to the point in my career where I was traveling a little bit more, and I was traveling a little bit more consistently with the national team at a lot of different events. And I think at that point, my room kind of like had shrunk,
Hmm.
and it was a little bit just me, and I had a couple other guys, but I had a very strong leadership role there, which is I say two things: it's good and it's bad. Obviously, you need leaders in the room. We take on that as I'm sure as an alpha and someone that kind of is the leader of a team. You understand that you take on that role to motivate, to drive, to push, and all those things, while trying to accomplish those things yourself. But I think at that time I had been in contact with Coach Reno a lot and kind of knew of his program. And he had a lot of killers in his room, and I'll use the word killers. But he had a lot of tough guys, that I knew if I was able to interject myself in that room, it kind of would put me back in that space, in that headspace where I needed to be to kind of go on and be successful. So I was with Coach Remark until after the first Olympic trials in 2012. And then after that is when I started transitioning the move to kind of go out to Miami because again, trying to qualify the divisions, trying to work together with a coach that's going to be at the events that I'll be at. So yeah, that was a lot of it. And obviously I've known, like you said, I've known Coach Reynolds since I was a kid. I think he was at one of my black belt tests when I was 12 or 13 or something like that. So it's a long history of kind of seeing him and knowing what he was about. But at that point, I think it was a natural progression for me. It was just I need to put myself back in a room full of people like I was when I was in Virginia. I had a majority of the Ivory Coast national team training with us in Virginia. Who I mean, you were out there a few times. You know what those boys are all about, and that was always good, strong work. And I think I was one of those athletes that needed to be tested every single day. So ultimately, I moved to Miami to kind of get that same feeling back, get some coaching, get some walkthrough of what it looks like to be an Olympian, what it looks like to become an Olympian, what it looks like to go out there and be ready to medal at the Olympic Games. So that was the majority of the reason I went out there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I was in the WCAP program. You were as well, but back then I was in it a little earlier than you. And we'd go train in Virginia. There's a couple times we went down to train with Juan and his team. And you're right, man. I would say from an outsider coming in both those rooms, you gotta hold your own, man. Like you're not. This is not a cakewalk. Like especially when you're the new guy or you're the new people coming in. you can feel the tension. It's like everyone's cool, everyone's respectful, but it's like when it's time to bang, like it's time to throw down. And I'm assuming, going from, like you said, you were kind of that alpha in that role at that in Virginia, going to Miami. It's like as much as you knew these people and they knew who you were, you're walking into a new Lions Den. You know what I mean? You got to earn that spot back one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it was about for me. And I knew that was a place that wasn't, like you said, you've been there before. There's no walking in and becoming the person. There's no walking in and probably figuring out. I mean, because if you figure it out on a Monday, you got to figure it out on a Tuesday, and Tuesday to Wednesday, and Wednesday to Thursday. So, like I said, I think it was one of those environments that you had to be ready for training. You didn't know what training was going to be like. You didn't know what the people in training was going to be like. You didn't know what the focus was going to be. So there was a lot of those question marks that I needed as an athlete. I needed to know that I was going into a room that I had to figure it out every single day. And I think that's key, having to be in a space where you have to force yourself to figure it out. And it's not so easy and it's not so comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give Dave Bartlett some props on that. That was one thing that he tried to get with us or implement with us when we were WCAP was I'm a guy, maybe it's just my by nature. I want to know like what are we doing today? What's the workout? What are we doing at noon? What are we doing at 2 o'clock? And we never knew, man. Like it was just because his mentality was when you go into a tournament, you can prep for it, but there's always going to be things you can't prep for that are unforeseen and just figure it out as you get there.
Yeah, I had a great experience. That I mean, I'll be honest with you, like the internal being a part of the WCAP team and coaching and working with those guys, and even being around the wrestling team and the boxing team and the boxing coaches, and I got a lot of input and aspects on things that were pretty cool. I mean, one of the wrestling coaches, and you were talking about the consistency you're talking about, having to always deal with the change and things changing like that. I think his biggest thing was to stay consistent within yourself. He made a joke once. He goes, if you eat crap every day, Monday through Thursday, and you come to training and you kill people, then why would you not keep eating crap? Why would you get to a tournament and try to eat something different, per se, is what he was trying to say. Why
Yeah.
change the habits that have built you to this point? Whether they be good or bad, I guess, in that sense. I know it was a little bit of a joke wrapped around it, but no, for sure. I enjoy working with Coach Bartlett. He was definitely gave me a unique experience. I mean, knowing him as a competitor, being around him as a competitor, and then being able to work with him on as you know, on a, I guess, teammate kind of level was definitely interesting. He very much was like that, kind of be prepared and be ready for anything. And the one thing I think that he kind of helped me with was kind of when shit hits the fan, it's like, what's next? You know what I mean? You just got to kind of keep moving and you just wipe it off your face and keep going.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
appreciate the time.
What was your experience like? I mean, I was in WCAP for almost 8 years. You would obviously had a ton of success. I would say you've got to be the most notable, like awarded athlete that joined WCAP at that point. Most of us, I got in. I obviously, I think I had medaled at nationals, and that's what got me to WCAP. Whereas you're coming in already with an Olympic medal. What was it like going to WCAP, already having established yourself in the world of sport taekwondo?
It's the military was starting over. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was starting over. I think I look pretty young. I went to the military to basic training at 30,
Mhm.
which is a little bit older than most. So even that experience was very unique. But getting into that room and being a lower rank than, I was a part of the program as an athlete for about 2 years, which I trained in Miami most of the time. But once I took the coaching role and moved to Colorado, I mean, it was, how it is. It's all business. It's definitely a different grind. You learn to connect a lot of different dots real fast. So I think the transition for me was that anxiety and starting over point again. Just trying to, you got to prove it. I mean, anyone can talk it, anyone can say it, anyone can be like, I can do this, I've done this, but in our world where we come from, like what you've done is irrelevant. It's what you're about to go do. And that's just kind of how the military was, and kind of getting into the military. Yes, I had some success before, Olympic medalist, national team, national medals. I think the last medal I won when I was in WCAP was actually 2018 nationals, and after that is when I retired and moved into the coaching. But you got to do it again, and you got to do it again, and you got to do it again. So I think that's what the Army and the military in general gave me a chance to do, kind of reset my mind a little bit and kind of work through a whole different set of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I watch your guys' podcast now. I love watching you, Juan, and Herb talk and give your input on everything. I will say that the military, I'm sure just like now you guys are dealing with the politics of sport taekwondo. The military has its own set of politics, right? Like you said, just coming in like Olympic bronze medalist, but you're Private Jennings. You know what I mean? Like you're the new guy on the block. And
Exactly.
the military, as much as I love my time in the military, it is frustrating sometimes because you can outperform people, you can have a higher education. There's so many things you can just be more capable. But if they they outrank you, and it is what it is, and you just got to deal with it. So I'm assuming you probably had to play a little bit of the politics behind the scenes, especially as you became a coach. I remember Dave always fighting for funding and trips and things that we could do. Do you feel like the military politics mirrors like USAT politics?
It's a little different. I mean, one's actually a solely private organization, and the other one's supposed to be the NGB. I think it's a little different. I think when you're dealing with a private organization like the military or the army in general, I mean, everything comes with strings. Everything comes with protocols. Everything comes with do's and don'ts. And I don't think they had it wrong, to be honest with you. I think they were trying to protect the program, protect the underlying of the dollar value. You know what I mean? It's a numbers game, and so I did have some of those fights with funding and who I could send where. I wish it was a little bit more forward thinking. I adopted or kind of was adopted into the program a little bit later in it, and I heard not complaints or things like we've never had an Olympian in WCAT. You know what I mean? We've never had an Olympian on the team, blah blah blah. And I'm like, and I try to, I mean, there's meetings, you know how it gets. I'm like, look, I mean, you've also never had 3 gold medals at nationals. You've also never had a Grand Prix medal. You've also never had a Pan Am Games medal.
Mhm.
But that's, and again, you know how that program works. It's mostly about Olympic success and Olympic teams. So
Yep.
I wish it was a little bit more forward thinking. I think we fell behind the ball a little bit when the selection procedures got changed. We went from having these crazy selection procedures of who we could get in, and nobody qualified, to kind of where me and Coach Bartlett lowered them to where it mirrored first, second, third at nationals, G1, G2 medals, yada yada yada. But that whole thing about never having an Olympian kind of crept back in, and we started doing things that other people wanted us to do, and I don't really think that that's where we kind of went awry a little bit with the whole system of it.
Yeah, for sure. So you were in Colorado, now you're in North Carolina. What was the initial like catalyst for you to move, to make that move? Because you didn't open your school for a while. So what drew you to go to North Carolina?
I was moving a little bit closer to my parents. That was one. Getting back on this side a little bit. Not necessarily. I didn't necessarily want to go back to Virginia. I had a couple opportunities out here to do some things, and that was the kind of a initiation of it. And then kind of moved into trying to do my own thing and kind of do it the way. I guess I worked with some. Try to do it the way that I think works best for me. As
Yep.
far as like a school system, as far as like how I want to teach, what I want to teach, and how I see me moving forward the next 4 to 10 years or whatever, 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
just to kind of set some roots in the ground. I mean, I definitely enjoy coaching at the high level of international high level as far as national team stuff and Olympic stuff, world stuff. But also, there's something fulfilling and rewarding about working at the grassroots level and being able to really imprint and give people a good vision of what Taekwondo is from the bottom. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you were doing coaching, doing your thing. What was the goal always to open your own school, or like what happened that you were like, I'm ready, now's the time?
I'll be honest with you. I fought it. I fought it for a while, like, because I know, and this is getting, stop me if I'm wrong. I know we'll get into it a little bit with the school stuff, and I think we'll have a couple different kind of ideas behind it. But I fought it for a while because it's hard for me to connect to overvalue the profit versus the product. Like, and I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, I love this sport. And I know as well as you, I'm very pure to the core of like how I got my belts. What did my belt test look like? What was I required to do to get to the next level, and all the things I had to learn and memorize and all that stuff. And you hear it, oh well, kids these days, you can't teach them this, you can't do this, you can't do this. It's too much, and we try to dumb it down to make it financially helpful for us, I
Yep.
think. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Because it's easy to convince people to do easy stuff than it is to convince people to do hard stuff,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
So I fought it for a while to do it. I've kind of fallen somewhere in the middle. I think some people would think I was a little bit crazy. Like, I've kind of restructured the whole thing. I have my main program is what I call it's called traditional sport taekwondo. So I'm basically just teaching. I don't do forms. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm teaching, like, if someone was to walk into a basketball room, a baseball room, whatever kind of soccer room. I think I focus for the kids. I focus a little bit on like their body development, their balance, the stuff that we do. But I spend a lot more time doing that as opposed to trying to make them memorize things that probably won't be helpful. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I also teach them a little bit of the traditional sports side, how to stand, how to move, slide forward, slide back, step forward, all those things develop into, I guess, maybe a sport athlete. But my goal is just to give them the kind of taekwondo that I kind of grew up doing.
Yeah. No,
So
I love it, man. That's something that I will say, again, being open 13 years that I struggled with as well in different phases at different times. When I first opened, I treated it a lot like it was funny. It didn't even have a name when I first opened. I just called it Sport Taekwondo. Like I just taught Sport Taekwondo. And I still have pictures on the sign. I didn't have a logo on the wall. I just had a red sign that said Sport Taekwondo. And we wore t-shirts and Taekwondo kicking pants. The kids could wear shorts. They wore their belts. We didn't do any forms. I wasn't master writer. I was just Coach Donovan or Coach Ryder. And it was a lot. I mean, all we did was there was a curriculum that I had, but it was all just sport taekwondo related. So they got graded based on did they understand transitions, moving forward, moving backwards, things like that. Ultimately, it was like, what do I think I want to, what do I want a black belt to look like, But then we started going to tournaments, and you're seeing other teachers that are, like you said, other school owners that you feel like, man, I have more experience than this person, and I feel like I have a good product of what I'm teaching, but this person's making way more money than I'm making, 10 times what I'm making. So then you start questioning, like, am I doing it the right way? And I remember I went down before I opened my first school, I went down and spent a week with Tony Graff. And he does do forms, but they were like made up. They were like his own forms. I remember thinking, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. And he's like, I can do whatever I want to do. Like, I own this school. I can teach whatever the hell I want to teach. And that was actually an eye opener for me to be like, why can't I do that either? Like, why do we have to be boxed into? I mean, TJ, right? Like TJ's Taekwondo, like how much your background, like the stuff, the experiences you've had, what you believe makes a good athlete or a good person, a good martial artist, whatever you want to quantify it as. Why not just teach that? I think there's probably a lot more value in that than the ATA school down the street, right? So how do you have a belt system?
I do have a belt system. I'm gonna do so. It's white, yellow. I mean, white, yellow, green, blue, red. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go to brown and then black. So that's just kind of like in my eyes how I'm gonna do it. But the beginning ones are mirror a little bit. The middle ones mirror for me are gonna be a little bit more it's kind of sorted. Like I don't believe in the whole you wait 60 days, you test every 2 months. Like I can't do it. I can't bring my, I mean, again, I know that's where the money is. I know that's where the funding, you make money from the belt test. Yeah, I get it. But for me, it still has to make sense. You know what I mean? I want to be able to test the kid that walks through the door like, oh, shoot, he got it really fast. I'm going to test him next month. I'm not saying I'm going to wait a long time, but I want the person coming in to have a certain level. Like that's how I feel like I was graded when I was growing up as far as belt system. It was really about what I knew and not how long I've been there.
Right.
You know, and I like that. So yeah, I will have a belt system. They do wear belts. We do bow in. We do bow out. We focus on respect. We focus on um, focus and all the things that I think in my brain when we talk about courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self control, and indomitable spirit. For me, I was taught that through sport taekwondo. So I don't really think I need the traditional side. But like you said, and like you were saying, Tony said, like I can teach whatever I want. You know what I mean? I don't think most people that walk into a martial arts school go, "Can I learn this form or that form?" And if they do, they're a very unique person. I don't think that happens very often. I don't think they know what they're going to be taught. So I just try to tell people when they walk through my door, I kind of give them a background of what we do and a background of what I'm going to teach their kids, just on a real scale. And I mean, some people tell me it's good, it's bad, but I mentioned sparring and stuff right from day one. Yeah, this is more of our program at the top. Our travel team is a sparring based team. A lot of the things that I teach our kids will be about body development and balance and building into being able to do those things if they choose. But I let them know that there will be some contact in the front. I mean, first day in class, second day in class, I have the little guys 7, 8 year olds holding the targets. They don't know how to hold the targets, but I think sometimes the other schools I've experienced, we spend too much time not letting them fail. Like hold the target, get your fingers hit a little bit, hold it a little stronger. Don't put it in front of your face, but you got to teach them those things. And I think that's the value of our sport. And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying nobody else in the world is doing this. We're just talking about like how I envision it being done in my room when at my taekwondo school.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Like I said, someone that's transitioned from being an athlete to being a school owner and a multi-school owner now, there are things that we're kind of so far down the path sometimes that it's not just ripping the Band-Aid off and saying we're not doing this or we are doing this. Things take time to change. However, looking back, there are things I would have done differently. And giving myself more freedom to just put my stamp on things, like what do I want this to look like? This is an interesting question I have, and it's honestly perplexed to me. I don't use that word that often. It's bothered me, I guess, over time. Since I retired from competition, last tournament, actually, we competed together, Olympic trials, 2000 and 2010 for the 2012 Olympic trials. I tore my ACL
Yeah.
and MCL, my third fight there. And after that, it was like, all right, rehabbing my military 8-year contract was up. And I was like, man, I'm ready to go home. So I decided to come home, did some soul searching, took like a year off, and then finally opened the school. Um, why do you think more athletes don't open schools? Or in a second question, ones that do aren't successful. Why do you think that is? It perplexes me because you take someone like yourself, like you obviously know what it takes to be successful, right? Like you're just changing the habits and the disciplines into business or putting it into something else. I mean, not necessarily even business like for martial arts, but start a lawnscaping business, right? Why do you think professional athletes at your level, a lot of them don't go on to be successful in business? What do you think that is?
I think you start at the first. I think the group of people who actually want to do that at the end. The group of people who you have a different feeling when you're gonna coach. You know what I mean? You have a different feeling when you have that kind of attachment to the sport that's gonna like keep you around. I mean, Coach Brent always used the word lifer. We know who are the lifers in this sport and the people that if we woke up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I did Taekwondo, it'd be a little strange. If I didn't watch a match, it would be a little strange. If I didn't see a kick, smell some bad Hogu gear or something, it would be weird. It would throw you off. I think that's a small group of people that kind of see that path from athlete to coach in that sense. And also, when you think athlete to coach in that point, I know you said school owner, but from just the coaching standpoint, it's tough. It's not easy. It's one of those things. You are making decisions like, is it worth doing this or should I do it this way? Or like, how is this going to help me in 5 to 10 years? Because you still got to think about you. Because if you're not in a place to be successful, you can't help other people.
Right.
So I think it's that balance to trying to find that balance of where that is. But also, I think the one I don't know many that aren't successful. So I don't know who to refer to or what we're really kind of hitting on. But like I would just say it's different. It's starting over. It's starting over. It's like me when I did a little jujitsu. I went back into jujitsu as a no belt, like a white belt. You know what I mean? I'm getting thrown around and like spun around on people's feet like I'm a child. I'm like, dude, I'm a whole Olympic medalist and I can't hold my ground here.
Yep.
So it's just choosing to restart and relearn something different. Um, I think we spend a lot of our time, for us anyways, in the physical realm, right? We punch, we kick, we scream, we yell, we fight, and then you switch this role, and now you're this. You got to talk. You got to talk. You got to sell. You got to be. You got to smile. It's almost opposite of everything we've done in our athletic career from a fighter standpoint.
Right.
So I think being able to switch gears and kind of I think you gotta have a little bit of both. I think you got to keep your personality. I think you got to try to be who you are, and and you got to try to do it your way a little bit. But I think maybe the ones that have trouble are the ones that are a little resistant to change.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I think you probably hit the nail on the head. One, there's just a small group of people that are the lifers that want to do this, and then on top of that, being able to kind of humble yourself and start over, whether it be a coach, a school owner, whatever it happens to be. I had the same experience, man. I was like, all right, well, I'm not competing anymore. Let me try jujitsu. I want to try something else. Be a beginner again. And I'll be honest, like one same experience. I get my ass handed to me by like high school kids, and number one, that's humbling. But number two, I had that gut moment of like, do I want to start over again? Like, do I want to get to the level where you were at and when in your competition career to do that in a completely different sport, I mean, that's a long process to get there. And starting over is humbling. And like you said, is it worth it? Is it going to paint the picture of the life you want 5 years or 10 years? So I think that's a very valid point. What do you feel like, how is it different managing your current athletes versus like when you were an athlete, you managed yourself, right? So you had coaches, people to support you, but really at the end of the day, it's TJ. That's one thing I love about Taekwondo is it is a team environment. We train together, but at the end of the day, like it's on me. Like if I win or lose, like it was my performance, the good or bad. Do you find it easier now being a coach, or harder being a coach, like worrying about your athletes?
I think yes, because everyone has a different personality. I think one thing I pride myself in from my coaching side of it is I think I am pretty good at reading people, reading situations, and kind of I know that's a big deal. I don't think you can coach everyone the same way. I know that's obvious, right? You can't give everyone the same thing. You can't. Sometimes you can't give certain things attention, and you need to give other things attention, and it gets a lot. So it's definitely more difficult. And I think the biggest thing for me is to realize that nobody thinks like me and nobody thinks like you. What their reasons, even their reasons behind doing the sport currently aren't connected to the reasons that you currently coach or teach the sport. There's no connectivity between the two. You know what I mean? How me and you started Taekwondo is probably way different than how they started Taekwondo. You know,
Right.
the visions or the goals or the things that we understood or the things that we ignored are different than the things that they understand and ignore these days. I would just I would say it's more difficult, but also for me, I think I had to come off a little bit and going from the military aspect of when, at WCAP you're training to win. Like there's we're not even development's out the window at that point. Like if
Yep.
you're not even on a team if we're still quote unquote. If I'm telling these guys, hey, I got a developmental athlete I want to bring in, they don't even look in my direction. They're not gonna let me do it. They're not gonna see the value in it because again, it took me a while, but it is the world class athletes program. Like you're supposed to athlete program. You're already there. In their eyes, you're supposed to already be there. And unfortunately, in the world of Taekwondo, we're not there. You know what I mean? So it's hard to find that balance. But I think going from that atmosphere where it's like win at all costs, win, 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 sending the top guys here, doing this, training here, doing all these things to now gives me a little bit chance to kind of focus on these kids' development and their growth. It's hard because I put myself back when I was their age 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Dude, I wanted to win. I wanted to win everything.
Yeah.
I didn't want, you know what I mean? I didn't want to lose to nobody. I don't care how old they were. I don't care what belt they were. I don't care what medals they won. I wanted to be better than all of them. So having them, kind of guiding them through the process of winning and losing is the guiding through the process of letting them know how important this was when this wasn't important because I had someone doing that for me. I knew which ones I needed to lock in on, and I knew which ones that I was a little bit in the lead and what I need to do, put my foot on the gas more. So guiding them from that standpoint and trying to really coach the longevity, I think, because I think our sport has entered the realm of short lived. We're talking about athletes going to the Olympic Games at this point at 19 and winning. You probably weren't even on our national team until you were 26. Like it was deep. We were surrounded by grown ass men. You know what I mean? And at 16, 17, 18, your skills were cool. Whatever you could do was nice, but they were men, and it was a little bit more physical. I know we always harp on that a little bit, but it was a little bit more physical. It was a little bit more intentional, and honestly, it was a lot more personal. Like I think most of those we didn't like each other, like on purpose. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
we didn't try to associate with too many different people.
Yeah.
Um, so I think trying to coach them through those aspects and trying to manage how I see it versus how they see it and find that happy median so we can continue to grow and maybe just pull it in my direction a little bit because I still think that you got to really want it. You got to really want it. You got to be afraid. You got to be unafraid to fail. You got to be willing to fight anybody. You got to be excited about the days where you wake up and you feel super sore and you don't want to get out of bed. That has to be the most exciting day ever because you're like, I get to go prove it today. I
Yeah.
get to go prove it today. I get to go see what I can do in this room full of people when I know I'm sore, when I know my ankle hurts. And those are things that as an athlete you have to choose to accept as growth,
Right.
as opposed to something that's going to drag you down. So, but it's definitely a little different, definitely a little tougher. A lot more energy exerted because you are worried about 7, 8, 9, 10 people as opposed to you being the solo person that matters that day.
Right.
But yeah, definitely different.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I remember, and it was so rare when we were younger. If someone made junior team and senior team, it was like, holy shit, like they're really good. And like to your point now, it's like that's probably pretty common in a lot of the world. It sounds like. I mean, if you're making the Olympic team at 18, 19, 20, you were just a junior a couple years ago.
Yeah, it is happening a lot. I mean, I think the turnover in the world is high. I think there are a lot of big professional programs right now, and like I don't even think back then we would have even used the word program. They were just national team. But these are big professional programs with athletes at every level. So when they do have cadets that go from juniors, I mean, you got these kids that are winning cadet worlds, winning junior worlds, going on to win senior worlds, all in a consecutive year. Guys and girls, it's crazy. I don't know if you not blame it. I don't know if it's conducive to the game and the system and all the things you want to kind of make it connected to, but I just think it's a different time. It's a different animal. I hate it to be honest with you because I started when I was very young and it took me 3, 4 Olympic cycles to make the Olympic 3 Olympic cycles to make the Olympic team. Like, and that was standard. It took me 5, 6 years to make the national team.
Hmm.
This I was second place, second place, second place, second place. Granted, we had big people in our division. We had world champions. We had Olympic medalists. We had Pan Am game medalists. We had big people in our divisions then that we were trying to displace just to make the team.
Right.
Um, so I think it was a little different, but yeah, it was unheard of. Like there were a few. You go back to of course the Wall Moreno, and there was guys that would make it when they were young and do some special things, but like it wasn't the norm,
Yeah.
and definitely in the men's side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, especially I always go back to, probably the biggest competition in my career was our Olympic team trials, man. Like there's 10 people in that division, and it was like there's some A players in this division. Like obviously there's people that there's still levels to the game, even at the Olympic level, right? There's levels to the game. But to your point, it's like there was, I mean, world medalists, right? Pan Am medalists, like, and all vying for one spot, you know what I mean? And some of them had been on that level for decades, so the level of experience that you're competing against, I feel like at least back then, I mean, there was no slouches at that level. Like everyone was solid. Whereas now, it's not saying that they're not solid. It's just like it sounds like the pool might be a lot smaller.
Mhm. I mean, I don't know. I look at divisions like for me, and I'll harp on it a little bit. I look at divisions like -80 in the U.S. Once, I mean, we had the best -80 in the world.
Yep.
I mean, Olympic legacy, world legacy, he was just the best. And even then, how many people lined up to fight him at team trials?
Yep.
He had a full division at team trials, and they were bringing smoke and they were bringing heat and they were trying to displace him, and it was ugly, but that's what it was about. Now I feel like even like in 80, there's no real contest in 80. No one,
Yep.
no one's even close to my boy. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's weird to see. I think we always had those really strong A, B, C, D, E testers. Like you can't sleep on E because he might get you
Yeah.
because everybody was there and the level was higher. I mean, so you can say that. I don't know about the pool being smaller, yes, no, but the level is definitely a little bit lower, I think, when it comes to just simply making the team, to simply getting to the place to be. Even the junior team, the same thing. It's not the level, it's not where it used to be. And that's just fact.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, some of the best fights I've ever seen, honestly, were, Rufus and Tony and TJ going against Steven. It's like, I mean, Steven, right? He's on a level of his own. However, like, don't have a bad day today because he's not gonna hold you. He's not gonna let you have a bad day. Like if you slip, he's
Looking
coming
for you
for
to
it.
have a bad day. He's looking for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's training for it. Like that was the thing. I say for that division and 68 back then, it was so volatile. You
Mhm.
just you just didn't know. You know what I mean? We were going 6 fights deep. I remember I fought that I think the Pan Am Games team trials, and I think I'm 5 fights deep, and I got one more fight, and the guy I was fighting had lost all his matches that day, literally 0 and whatever. And he came out there, and again, I've won everything that day so far through that, and he came out there and fought me like a Super Saiyan. And I
Mhm.
still to this day didn't understand. Like, dude, he can't win. But he fought. He was probably the toughest fight that day.
Yeah.
I think I got him at the end of frustration. I got him at I guess the most warmed up, the most determined. But it used to be like that. You couldn't sleep on anybody.
Yep.
You couldn't have a bad day. You couldn't think it was in the bag. It was all the way to the end always. So
Yeah.
those are good times.
No, good times, good times. Yeah. All right, transitioning here, talking about sport taekwondo. Obviously, we have AU, we have USAT. What changes do you think need to happen on the national level? Let's start there on a national level, as far as taekwondo to develop to get to where we should be, like where we're consistently getting world medals or we're getting Olympic medals. What do you think needs to change and happen for that to be possible?
I think we've always, if I'm just being realistic, we've always done special things in the US, right? We've always had two, three, four people show up and do their thing. And like I would say, I want to see us get to, in my world, I want to see us get to that dominant situation where we show up and people feel like, oh shit, Korea's here. Oh shit, Iran's here. China. I want to feel that feeling. And I don't think I've ever been on a team where I felt that feeling. Obviously, there's been some big people on the teams I've been on and some things, but there was a few of us. There was a few of them. There was some, but then there was a lot of like development like going on. There was a lot of people that I'm gonna say, be honest. Some people go, oh, they're not gonna go get a medal. You know what I mean? They're
Mhm.
not gonna win. What again? True or false? Good or bad? It's irrelevant to me because that's when I was competing as well. But like, I want to get to the point where we do have a strong, strong team where we have I want to see our kids go to junior worlds and get 7 medals, 6 medals, 5 medals. So to answer your question, I think I think I've said it a billion times at this point, but that's where it starts. If we're not focused on making the kids better, we'll never be dominant. We'll never be dominant. You're always going to get someone special. You're always going to get the outliers of the kid that has the support from his home club, has the support from his parents, has the support from, good coaching and all that stuff like that, that can do something special.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that's the standard of winning anymore. If that's still our standard of winning, then that's where we're wrong.
Yeah.
I want to come back home with multiple Olympic medals and multiple gold medals and multiple world championship medals. How do we get there? I don't think it's easy, but I definitely know it's connected to giving our kids the development they need when they're younger. Because I say, against, I guess, what I've heard through the grapevine, if I was primed and ready as a kid, at 16, 15 years old, I knew what the Olympic Games were. I knew how tough the world was. I knew that I had to train harder. I was given support. I was given guidance, but it was at that level. Once I became old enough, I understood all that. So then it made everything a little bit easier and manageable, I would say. I don't think I was, I don't even think I hit my full potential. I'm not saying I was better than everybody, but like, I think I was able to perform consistently in competitive situations. And I think that's what we have to kind of get to that point where we show up and we're always competitive. I don't think we're always competitive right now.
Yeah, no, it's fair. With all the changes happening, obviously, like when we were kids, everything was 1 point. There was three-minute rounds. Like the sport has changed so much to now, it's what you best of three, win the rounds, things like that. Do you think the sport is evolving in a positive way? Like, do you like the rule changes that are happening?
I like the 3 round system, but
Hmm.
also lived through the days where someone would come back and when the electronic scoring first started, to come back and someone's up 15-3 and you watch the next 2 rounds be the most boring thing you've ever experienced in your life, because coaching down 15-3, being able to come back, not make any more mistakes. I mean, has it happened? Yes. Have I been in those situations? Yes. But like, those are tough, especially when we're protecting a system, right? Like, as long as you don't hit my chest guard, as long as you don't touch me, I can kind of just hang out for a while. If
Yeah.
I can hang out for 9 points, I still win.
Yeah.
So I like the 0-0 system. Um, I'm not a fan of how creative Taekwondo people have become throughout learning the system. I think, like anything, you put something in front of competitive people, they learn how to manipulate it, change it, and
Yeah.
win, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, But I think that's the epitome of it. I don't. We didn't sidekick each other. Could we have sidekicked each other? Yeah, but we didn't sidekick each other. It was like, I think there was a certain I'm gonna use the word standard. There was a certain standard to the game, and I feel like that's gone away a little bit, and I hate it. I think if we could go back somehow to being like boxing, where you only got this kick, this kick, this kick, this, like, there's things you only can do, and
Yeah.
that's it. And everything else, let's just throw it out the window. You
Right.
know, yeah, I think I heard they might be going back to the 1-2-3 system, where it's 1 point for punch, 2 point for body, 3 point for head, and then no bonus points. I think that progression in our sport was the dumbest thing ever. And I always explain to my kids, I'm like, they're like, oh, well, if I can get 2 points for up ball and 2 points for a back kick, why would I back kick? And I'm like, because the person went to your open side too slow and you saw it and you set them up and you put them on their butt. It was a
Right.
reason why we back kicked. It was a reason why we spin hook kick. Now we just spin hook kick. I mean, dude, I watched people get 5 points for spin hook kicking the wrong side. Like,
Yeah.
it just, and it's funny because it's so normal now. Like, we cheer for it, but like, you would almost, if me and you were sitting in the stands watching a match back when we were at nationals, you watch some kid back kick the wrong side or spin hook kick the wrong side or pot it to the same side open stance, you'd be like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
someone did to you in training, you want to like punch him in the face. You're like, dude, why would you throw the same side? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
guess there was a standard there, but I think that, so the bonus points, I like the round by round system, because I think it allows the coaches to coach more. I think it allows us to,
Yeah.
because you can make a lot of mistakes in the round now. You know what I mean? The system cannot be on your side. The referee can dictate a lot more, but at least you get a whole reset and see if you can make the difference. So I like that part. I don't. Again, I would get rid of I would get rid of the bonus points. Hopefully they do. I hate punching, only because it wins and loses matches at times that it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Only because when it gets exciting, it's very much manipulated by the noise of the crowd and where the referees are in the match. Like, are they excited? And again, if people don't think referees are biased, they're wrong. Like, come on, like, there's, even if you're just watching the match holding the trigger, at some point, if you started even with both people by the end, you're like, man, that kid's really trying, but it's not working out for him. Oh, he's coming back up. I'm gonna score a punch, and now this kid wins just because I was emotionally invested in this match.
Yeah.
So I hate punching. I can't stand it because it can win or lose matches that are great matches, and that's that. So I don't know what you do with it. I don't know if you go half points. I don't know if you take it out, but I would get rid of punching, get rid of the bonus points. Um, I would go back to 10 Gom Johns over the span of potentially 3 rounds. I wouldn't let 5 Gom Johns in a round. I don't like it. I think you get 5, that's just you're down by 5 that round. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then if you get 5 more, you get 10 over the whole 3 rounds. If it goes 3, if you get 10 in 2 rounds, then you're out. But I don't like that it potentially ends a great match. You know what I mean? And we're
Right.
talking about slipping, and we're talking about holding, and we're talking about stepping out of bounds, and we're talking about the referee thought I was holding while I went to the head, and we're talking about kicking the hip and slip. Like we're talking about so many things that can result in penalties that like it can end around is silly. And then again, that started with people going potachagi and falling, right?
Yep.
On purpose. That's where that started. So
Yeah.
it's like we've done it to ourselves a little bit, but also the people above kept trying to fix things that didn't need to be fixed.
Yep.
Just fix the call. Like when you identify them falling on purpose, just give it to them. Eventually, people will stop falling on purpose, you know. But I think we went so far the other way. So I'm like in the middle. I don't hate it, and I'm not necessarily in love with it. I like teaching it. I like coaching it. I think I found like that middle ground of teaching and coaching it, and trying to like merge the two worlds together a little bit. But I don't know. It is what it is. What do you think?
No, I agree. I agree with the round by round, like winning the rounds. I agree because there was just even matches where it's so far out of reach, or honestly, you're up by 10 or 15 points, and you're like, I can coast through this, and I can get through this thing. No, no problem. Don't give up a big shot, and I'm safe. It keeps it competitive. Every round is going to be it should be interesting. I agree with the punches. I've won some matches with punches, so I like them for that aspect. But like to your point, you can play the crowd, and especially if you have a big team, you go to a state tournament, it's just you and your coach versus you got the peak community behind you. They go crazy, like those buttons are getting pressed. You know what I mean? So you can, but again, it's a system, it's competitive, it's whatever. So I'm not knocking it by any means. Like do whatever you need to do to win. That's why even now when people are like, it's so different than what we did, and I'm like, yeah, but these kids, these students, they didn't make the rules. Like they're just playing in the rules, right? So like, don't
I
knock
just
the
don't like when
kids.
people. I just don't like when people act offended by it. Like you can have your opinion, you know what I mean? But like the ones that are like, "Oh my God, this sport is so disgusting. I can't watch it." No one's asking you to watch it.
Yeah, no one's asking you to
No,
watch it.
no one's asking you to watch it. I know everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you can write what you want, but like sometimes I think people go too far. It's like the game of basketball. People complain about basketball being soft. People complain about the game of football being soft. The ones that watch it for real, I just again, we're talking about most of these people that were just okay to mid-level fighters that have never even graced the surface of a national team going, this sport is so disgusting. Like that's the part that I fall off on because I think maybe I'm a little bit biased. I've seen the progression all the way through. So it hasn't completely went from me doing the sport and then disappearing for 10 years and not seeing anything and then popping back on the scene going like, ill, this is gross.
Right.
So I get maybe that's why they come from because it's probably obviously it's a big drastic. One looks like this, one looks like this if you haven't seen it for a while. But if you've been around and you've been a part of the process, you've watched the progression of how we got here, we can all agree that there's things that we could have did without and there's things that we could still change. But also we're not that far away from what it used to be. It looks a little different. The stalling looks a little different. The strategic aspect looks a little different. What toughness looks like and big shots look a little different. But it's all still there. It's
Yeah.
all still there. I just think I think at the higher levels it's super technical and it's hard to knock somebody out. Like, you
It
know what
is.
I mean? It's hard to hit somebody with a big shot. It's just people are good. We do like most people don't give these kids credit for this generation or credit for how much stuff they actually have to block. Like we could kind of get nipped sometimes. You know what I mean? If they went over our head lightly, we weren't worried about that. We would almost take that just so I can get close to hit their chest guard hard
Right.
because we knew referees weren't going to press for this. But now it's like sometimes stuff gets little light touches, and you know how it goes. Now you're down by 3, so it's not so easy.
Yeah.
I think that's what people don't understand. You have to block a lot. You have to move a lot. And I was talking about last week on the podcast. I was saying we never used to. Did you ever practice blocking when you
No.
were competing? Did you practice? Yeah, unheard of, right?
No.
You,
Unless it's a cover punch. Otherwise, no.
other than cover punch and cross punch, no, you never practice blocking. Right. Because we were taught that we had to make a miss to hit afterwards, hit at the same time. And we, of course, keep your arm down so it doesn't hurt. But it wasn't so like almost necessarily to protect the chest guard even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so it didn't hurt to dull some of the pain that,
Yep.
deflect it, make a miss. But now they have to practice blocking because people can stand there and do things and you're down by 9. And you're like, dude, this is crazy, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's become there's a lot more ways to win.
Yep.
I think back then it was if you were stronger, if you were faster and smarter, of course you win. But you could have just been stronger. You know what I mean? You could have just been fast. I don't think you can just be stronger in this game per se.
Right.
You know, with all the rules, I don't think you could just. Now, even sometimes I don't think you can be smarter because someone's got more gas, someone's a little bit bigger. You know, it's all changed a little bit. But yeah,
No, it makes sense, man. And I think the another thing to point out is I'll be honest, man. I get it. Like I think from going to nationals when you had 60 kids in your division, U.S. Open, 150, 100 featherweights, right? The divisions were stacked, but also everyone wasn't good. You know what I mean? Whereas now it's smaller, but like to your point, I mean, we have some of these kids are ridiculously athletic, especially on the world level. Like you said, they have a whole new aspect to the game of blocking that we didn't even have to worry about. Like we didn't spend any time on that, right? But even beyond that, when we look at some of the stuff from the 80s, even the early 90s, I mean, even in like other sports back then, right? Like there's football players that were doing smoke breaks. You know what I mean? Like when they're not, quarterback's not playing, he's on the sideline smoking a cigarette, right? Like these guys were plumbers and shit on the side. I look at some of the fights on YouTube from like world championships. I'm like, this dude from India looks like he's a plumber. Like this guy doesn't do Taekwondo full time. You can tell he's not even good. Like that he looks like he's on par with a blue belt at the North Carolina State Championships, but he's at the World Championships right now. And I'm not knocking. I know there was obviously great people in every era, but I don't think it's always apples to apples.
nah, it can't be. It literally can't be because you gotta. I think we always have to remember that, like at some point, some kid somewhere, and I always ask my guys, they started their first tournament on electronics.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's mind blowing to me. You know, coming from like paper scoring to not knowing the score until the next round started, and you kick for 2 minutes and it's 1-0, and you're like, how the hell?
Yeah.
You know, like there's no pause. This guy has no arm left. I kicked it across the room and it's 1-0 or it's
Right.
1-1. You know, so we were taught to keep fighting in those situations. But some of these kids are starting on electronics, but they're really good. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like when I watch the cadet level and when I watch the junior world level, that those kids, some of those kids are, dude, like they're good at this sport.
Yeah.
They're good at blocking. They're good at moving. They're good at cancel. They're good at avoiding. They're good at applying pressure, and it looks pretty smart. I think the more we get used to this system, the better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, some people don't think the same. I think they think it's just gonna keep getting worse. Obviously, they need to figure out the. I would like them to go to one system,
Yeah. Agreed.
Dado or KPMP. Just pick one. Just pick one and let's just deal with one. Or merge the two companies. Both y'all make money. Make a ultimate KP Dado Hogu. You know, Kato Hogu, whatever you
Cato.
want to call it. Yeah,
Yeah.
make a Kato Hogu and be done with it. You know.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I think these kids are good. I don't think you can compare the two generations because I can do the same thing. I think that the generation I fought in, we kicked a lot. I
Yeah.
think we fought a lot. I think it was one of them in my brain in the United States for like the 68 division is one of the most volatile divisions. Like it was going to be fireworks no matter what. I don't think there was ever I can't remember a slow match with anybody.
Right.
We were going to throw down, we were going to attack, we were going to punch, we were going to push, we were going to fight, and that's just how it was. I think our pace was pretty high
Yeah.
in comparison to before us. I don't think their pace was that high. I think you
Right.
had your people whose paces were that high, but I think generally in our era we kicked a lot,
Yeah.
and we kicked a lot, and we looked for a lot of big shots always.
Yeah. Yeah. You're looking to do damage. Not only do you want to score, but you wanted to do damage. Um, and I'll never forget me, obviously Olympic trials. I was getting ready to fight. I think it was my third fight. Anyway, I was sitting there, I was on deck to fight in that ring. And again, you and Bernard, I'm sure you guys have hashed this out over time. That was one of the most amazing matches I've ever seen in my life. And I literally was sitting like 2 feet from the ring. It was just crazy. That was like, one, you didn't know who was going to win. You obviously pulled it out, ended up making the team. But like, I mean, it was firework. Every exchange was like, oh shit, like that looked like it hurt, like every single time. And I think you ended up pulling out a headshot like right at the end or something. I don't remember exactly how it phased out, but like those matches, I mean, that was 6 minutes of like beating the shit out of each other.
And I think, like for me, obviously, like I said before when we first started this topic, like there were so many good people in the division, and that point, Bernard was younger than me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He was. I was kind of in the middle. He was kind of here, and then everyone's looking at Mark, right?
Yep.
Let's be honest. This is the standard, and everyone else is kind of like tiered in that direction for a while, right? But he wanted to win. He wanted to win. He came to fight. He came to try to win, and I like you said, I was able to kind of pull it out. But those were tough matches too, and that was again, if I'm being honest, that wasn't the person on my radar. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I wasn't going there and be like, I'm gonna fight Bernard Posey, but Bernard Posey wanted to fight me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
100%.
We didn't. You know, he came to fight me. He believed that he could beat me, and
Yep.
I think it made those made for tough long days just because, in spite of, I don't know if it was, there's a lot of different regimes. You had this big team, this big team, this big team, this big team, but I feel like everyone really thought they could win.
Yeah.
I don't really think it. I don't think it's the same anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel it. You know, people. I heard someone tell me once they showed up to nationals and they had just trained starting 2 weeks ago because they were working or something. In my brain, I'm going, I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're not going. You don't show up. Like imagine showing up to team trials only training like a week or two when we fought.
Right.
It was going to be the longest day of your life.
Yeah.
And in a Al Robbins situation, you know, it was going to be a long day. It was going to be a long day, and you might not make it out. You might
Yep.
be done after fight two, fight three. You
Yep.
know, um, but yeah, I think it was those made for tough days. Our Olympic process was a little bit different. We had I again going back to the way it was done. We had the first trials, then we had the world qualifiers, and if I was that qualified at the world qualifiers, then there was no other fight off. But I didn't qualify until the Pan Am region qualifications for Olympics, and I had to come back and fight again. You
Hmm.
know, those are even tough moments. You imagine that was the scariest moment of my life because all I'm trying not to think about is, man, this excuse me, this process started in 2010. It is now 2012, and I'm one match away from either making an Olympic team or starting all the way over again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
and I lost that first match that day. So we went to the second match. That was electronic stuff. And I remember at one point I did something. I fell and I fall on his foot, and my chest guard hits his foot before the time goes off.
No.
He won't take it off the board. You know, I swear I remember Mark Stead of the ring. He's going like sidekick motion. And I'm looking at him going, dude, you didn't even lift your leg. What do you mean sidekick? Like, you know what I mean? But that was a tough day coming back and knowing that all the work and ups and downs and trainings and everything led to that one match with the Olympic silver medalist. You know what I mean? With the world champ. Like it was. I think that was probably for me the best, biggest, and probably the toughest situation I've ever been in the sport of Taekwondo. Like, period. Because it had, if we're being honest, it hadn't been done before. Like nobody, no one was going like, he's gonna win for sure. TJ's gonna win for sure. They thought it was gonna be, and I had to fight myself from thinking it's gonna be the same story again. The Lopez make the Olympic team. The Lopez make the Olympic team. Brothers and sister make the Olympic team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it was it wasn't until I'll tell you a funny story. It wasn't until the thing that calmed me the most is when there was an article that came out and it said something about Mark Lopez being ready like a F1 Ferrari or something like that. It was some like weird comparison, like ready, oiled, and fire F1 Ferrari, you know, whatever. And at that point, I'm going, whoever said that, they're worried. Because it was, for me, it was out of character. For me, it was a weird statement to make for weird. In my brain, it sounded like overcompensation. But when I saw it, I'm like, I felt a little bit more comfortable. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anyways, but
No, I mean,
yeah, those are
it's
tough days.
interesting as athletes, and I think humans by nature, we look at it always from our perspective, right? You're thinking like, man, like not only that's one thing that's a whole nother story. It's like that's honestly why I ended up getting out of the military. Is one of the reasons was for me, it was like, okay, well, I tore my knee. I'm going to miss the next phase, even if we have the next phase of Olympic trials. Like I'm not competing in that. Like, so now my sights are 2016, right? Like this is 2010. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that's 6 more years. Like this is a really long process. It's not like basketball or baseball or football where you're like Super Bowls next year. We got one coming up next year. You know, for us, it's a 4 year window. So it's a long, I mean, it's a big commitment, you know? But to
That
kind of
was
to your
back when
point
it was only
about,
two guys and two girls.
yeah, and
They were,
not a lot of people
yeah,
get to go. I mean, it's like the pinnacle. It's like hard as shit. You know what I mean? It
yeah.
really is. Like to make the Olympic team, and the goal is obviously to get there, do what you did, take a medal home. But how many people that funnel gets is so big to so small for our sport specifically? But to answer your, to also talk about your point, it's like in your mind is like is the story going to happen again? Is it going to be the same story? The Lopez's and they secure the spot, they get the bag, and I'm stuck, outside looking in. On the other hand, though, I'd be interested to also ask like Mark in that situation because you're probably thinking like he's confident, world champion, Olympic medalist, but I wonder he had to have on some level been thinking like, shit, I better this kid's coming.
Nah, no way, no way he
Really?
was comfortable.
Yeah, so
No
I'm
way
saying
he was comfortable.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
He had no, he had everything to lose, and I think that was on my side a little bit.
Yeah.
He had the legacy to stand up and do it again, and that's a tough situation. I had one, and then I think that first one he lost to Brian Gallagher as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the floodgates open for someone that had been completely dominant in the U.S. through and through and through and through, and now I beat him, and then this Brian Gallagher beats him, and that's like I don't know how I feel in that situation, but I think I'm a little shook. I think I'm going, all right, here we go, and I know coming back to the next time he fight, he had to win the other trials, so beat everybody else. I don't think that was crazy difficult. I can't really remember. I was watching. Um, did James beat him that day or no? James Howe, remember James Howe fought 68? Did he beat
Yes.
Mark that day?
I don't
Yes,
know.
right?
I think he might have, honestly.
I think he did. But anyways, it got tricky for him fast, and I think that was a big moment for him. And it would be a big moment for me. I'm not talking junk or anything. It's just one of those things like we have to do every year. I mean, it's like coming back from the Olympic Games after getting a medal and then coming back to team trials the next year and having
Hmm.
to do it again, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing. So I definitely don't think it was a I wasn't thinking that he was comfortable. I was thinking the opposite. I'm like, dude, if he feels pressure, like if I feel pressure, he's got to feel pressure.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
100%. Cool. All right. I got a couple of rapid fire questions here. I'd love to we got to do this more often, man. I know I have so many more things I want to talk about with you, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've already been on it for an hour. So, a couple rapid fire questions. Of all the eras, you did the old school Hogus, and then I actually, believe it or not, I like the Just era because we hadn't really transitioned the game yet, but we were just doing it on an electronic system. Not that it was perfect by any means, but it still looked in my mind like Taekwondo had. And then you got the Dado and all this. Now, what's your favorite era, I guess? 90s, 2000s. What's your favorite era of Taekwondo to watch? Let's say to watch.
it's got to be 2000s.
Yeah.
It's got to be the 2000s. I mean, for me in my brain, I think I made the junior team in 2003. 2000s to how do I say this? Early 90s, mid to early 90s, all the way through was kind of like the era that that I think was
Yeah.
the best because I think it was the 2001 World Championships is 2001 World Championships. There were so many good fighters. Then there were so many good fights there. Like you go back, we used to watch that VHS all the time. So I would definitely say late 90s, early 2000s, that era.
Yep. No, agreed. Yeah, same for me. And sometimes I'll go on YouTube just for fun and like watch some of the fights. And it's funny because I'm like, these are my favorite fighters. They're throwing down. In my mind, this is like classic Taekwondo. And then it's 2-1 or it's 1-0. And I'm like, they just beat the shit out of each other.
I know.
Okay. All right, cool. Follow-up question for you here. What's something about being an Olympic athlete that most people would not expect?
That would not expect.
Yeah, like you're an Olympic athlete,
Um,
you're an Olympian forever now. Like, is there something that is, I don't know, is there an inside handshake that we don't know about? Or is
hmm.
there something like, do you feel different?
I wouldn't say different, but it's hard to move where it's that constant I think like to get to that level, to be able to compete at that level and do those things is always a unique, special situation. I think you have to have a little bit of everything on your side, a little bit of luck, a little bit of skill, a little bit of guidance, all these things that go in a village, like they always say. But I think in doing so, you adopt this mentality of there always has to be more. Like you really can never be satisfied. I still think later in my career, into now in the coaching, it's hard for me because I am looking for that like what's next. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I have to get myself in trouble because I'm looking for what's next. I mean, most people just sit back and be like, I'm good, but it's internally driven, and I think in a lot of Olympians and people, and people at any high level of sport, but it's that what next factor. And I think that most people don't know that that's an anxiety point for some people. You know what I mean? That's a feeling you never get rid of. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think to be an Olympian, especially in a combative sport, I would say, you have to be a unique person, mentally, and not only physically, but I think definitely mentally, like to be able to go into a combative situation, knowing that only one person is going to win this fight or win this round or win this match, to be able to be mentally tough to do that, I think is super challenging. But then also there's a rush, man. I would say that's the biggest thing that I missed after quote unquote retiring, if you will, or just stepping away from the sport. It's hard to replace the excitement and the feeling of winning in front of a large crowd of people. People are cheering, doing what you set out to do, setting that goal, hitting that big shot, coming back from behind and winning. Like it's hard to, if you could bottle that up, man, you could make a shit ton of money, but it's hard to step away from that. Like, do you feel like you still get that emotion with your athletes, but just from looking, like being a part of their journey?
Um, no,
Yeah,
I'm not
I was
gonna
going to
hold you.
say
No,
maybe a little, but it's
no.
definitely not the same.
No, I think it's more for them. That's why, again, going from the army coaching to this coach, it's more for their fulfillment. It's more for their development. I'm happy when they're happy. I'm sad for them. I definitely feel the opposite though. When I know they work hard, do their things, and they lose, I still take that the ups and downs you feel. But as far as like, I, not that there is none. Obviously, we get some accolades and things and good feelings as coaches, but like it doesn't move the needle because you're so used to moving the needle for yourself, right?
Yep.
Like it's I did this, or we're doing this, or I accomplished this, or I'm gonna try to do this next. It doesn't really move the needle, and so no, there's nothing really to replace it, to be honest,
Okay.
in my
Fair
mind,
enough.
anyways.
Last two questions here. You've obviously had an amazing career, and obviously a great career even now as a coach. What's one moment, like what's like the moment that you're like the epitome of Terrence Jennings Taekwondo that you're like, was it the Olympic medal? Was it maybe making the Olympic team, right? Like, what was the moment that you were like, this is it. This is my moment.
It was definitely the Olympic trials, the second phase Olympic trials, securing the Olympic spot. Just because, like I said, I think it was a big moment for a lot of people because it was the first time it happened. It was the opposite of what the story was supposed to be. It was the I use it the diamond in the rough story. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I kind of around, and you still had to go get it done. And that was a big moment for me, just making an Olympic team because again, we're talking about two males, two females every 4 years make the Olympic team at that point, and that was it. And I'm a kid from Virginia, and I hate to use that cliche, but a kid from Virginia, started Taekwondo in a strip mall, Kim's
Yeah.
karate, white belt, and now I'm at the Olympic trials. And then I was successful. I think that's the moment for me because
Yeah.
and I think everything else after that was I hate to say it, but it was icing on the cake. Obviously I still wanted to win, I still wanted to grow and build, but like there was at one point in my life I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't see it to be possible.
Right.
I knew there were so many obstacles and hurdles and things, and I was able to be around good coaches, good support system, good people in general to kind of help me get there. And I think that moment was the I feel like everyone's so excited. That was like my thank you to all the people that supported me all the way through because it was a difficult thing to do at that time in that era, in that situation with those competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually had a feeling it would be that. There's a kind of a common saying in the entrepreneur world. A lot of high level coaches have talked about this. Is people are like, when do you feel like you made it? And in the entrepreneur world, and a lot of guys are like, when I saved my first $100,000. And they're like, yeah, but you're worth 1 million or 10 million now. And they're like, I'm telling you, the first 100,000, it's just different. Like, because you didn't think it was doable, and it took everything inside of you to make that happen. And then getting to the next level is actually not as hard as you think it is. It's that first level of thinking, like, questioning, can I do this? Am I the person that can get this done? Do I have the skill sets? Do I have the support? And it's like those moments, they seem smaller from the outside, but those moments internally are huge.
I guess, can I got time for a question for you?
Yeah.
Question for you, real quick, real fast. If you were, because I know you mentioned you have, been doing it for schools for 13 years, multiple locations. Day one, month 1 through 3, advice you're giving to someone that's just starting and just opening and trying to build, and like a lot of things we touched on with like the ideas behind coaching and teaching and all that stuff like that. What advice are you giving me, this guy right here?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it, man. I'd love to do a whole nother show. We can do a whole other show just in business and breaking it down. I would say, so here's two things I think most people in our industry get wrong. Just because you're passionate about martial arts doesn't mean you should own a martial arts school. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you should, one, that you can even teach other people. Like doing it is not the same as teaching, number one. But I would say, obviously knowing your background, knowing I've trained with you, I've worked with you, I've seen you teach my students as well. You're obviously great at this. The best business doesn't win, the best known business wins. People need to know who you are, right? I would say the more hands you shake, the more money you make. Whether that's going to local networking meetings. The first year we were open 3 times a week. I had a morning one, like a 7 a.m. one, and then 2 times a week there was lunch meetings, and it was other entrepreneurs in the community. And again, it's like in fitness, everyone wants to be have more muscle and less body fat. Everyone wants a little bit more, no matter where you're at. You can be super successful fitness person, but like you want to be leaner, right? Business owners all want more money, right? They want to make more money. They want to have more impact. So I think being around those people and shaking hands and learning their story and always giving first, like what can I do for this person? We have a new location that opened for us a little over a year ago, and they're doing well. They're making money, but we haven't hit the targets we wanted to yet. So about a week, 2 weeks ago, I just went with them. I said, "Hey," I grabbed the staff, I said, "Jump in the car." We went to every business in the local community. We just walked in, introduced ourselves, got to know them, shook hands, asked if we could get flyers from them. Is there anything that we can do to potentially help their business grow? We went to all the daycares. We went to the local elementary schools to work with the PTAs, coffee shops, ice cream shops, especially anything that is, we're a kids program primarily. We do have adults and teenagers, but we are primarily a children's program. So anything that is kid centric, right? Toy stores, gymnastics centers, dance locations, pediatrics, orthodontists, kids dentistry. Those people need to know who you are because at some point they might not sign up, but if they know someone one day that's like, oh, my kid has no discipline, and or they saw the Olympics, my kid wants to do sports, like actually, I met that guy TJ. He's actually an Olympic medalist. There's definitely value in people knowing who you are and your story. And again, you have an amazing story. So like that's the easy part. Most martial arts school owners did it in a rec center their whole life, never did anything. You know what I mean? They're talking about throwing a football over those mountains, right? Like they're talking about the glory days. They don't even have the background like you do, but they can beat you if they are more known, if they can get out there. The fact that you can couple your story with getting out in the community, that'll put a fire underneath your business for sure.
Yeah, I've been trying to do a little bit of everything. It's been a little bit busy with the schedule. Obviously, I don't think my format's perfect. I think I'm trying to do a little bit, and everyone always tells me you can't do both. You got to focus on business, then you can come back to the sport. Unfortunately, in my brain, I'm trying to design my gym like a high level development for Taekwondo. Like obviously I got little kids programs and stuff like that, but it's all the cream of the crop is the top. And I want people to know that and I want to kind of keep it in that direction. So I do a little things that probably I should be there every single day, you know what I mean? But I do take a week to go to nationals and I do some things here and I do try to keep this team growing because at the top, I think it's important as well. But I do appreciate that. Yeah, I know I got to do a little bit more. We do a little advertisement for stuff online and a lot of stuff like that. But I think we started last week and the week before, kind of going out to some places and putting some things in some areas. But
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. I've got a book. Hold on one second.
All right.
Yeah, I'll mail this to you. So I made this a long time ago. This was actually for my staff as we started expanding and growing. I wanted to make sure that everyone uh, understood my philosophy on running business and how we do what we do. So I just made this for my team, and then I put it online. I'll mail you a copy of this. It's just the complete martial arts business guide. So it's pretty much how we run our business, man. Marketing. We obviously do after school programs, summer camps, things like that. We have a traditional program, but early on we were primarily a sport program, and I think there's ways that you can do like a value ladder where you have that basic program where those kids are coming in, they're learning. I say basic program, but it's probably basic sport type program. But then you have those next tier options. Like a lot of schools will have a black belt program or an upgraded weapons program or something. You could have levels just inside of a sport taekwondo system. That's one thing. We did a lot of sparring early on. I mean, our sparring class would be 60, 70 kids on Fridays. It was awesome, man. Like just back at like it felt like being a kid again. You know what I mean? Everyone just throwing down. But then what you find is there's a percentage of people always that love who you are and what you do, and they will pay you even more money. So we started creating extra like sport programs just within our program, and we're getting people signed up, and they're paying triple the price of everyone else. So I'd love to kind of, like I said, I'll mail you this book, and then I'd love to do some more follow-up calls, man, and happy to help any way I can. I love seeing people that were great at what they did in their sport that did it the right way and now want to give back. I love it, and any way I can help, I'm here for you.
I appreciate that, brother. Yo, we'll definitely do it again. Let me know. We can do it next week if you want. I like these conversations because also it helps me, remember how it helps me every day. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you got to remember the things that you go through, so I can keep giving my athletes what I think they need and where they are, and kind of staying connected to the whole thing. So definitely appreciate your time, and let's do it again for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, TJ.
Later, bro.